screen. Does HPV screening take place before vaccination? No. No screening takes place prior to vaccination, whether with either of the HPV vaccines, at least not in this country or in most of the countries that have the vaccine. In June 2009, representatives from ACOG and approximately 25 other organizations met to discuss cervical screening and management for adolescents. There was general consensus that new screening guidelines should recommend against adolescent screening and that screening should begin at age 21. And the society will formally review the evidence and update our cervical cancer screening recommendations in the coming year. When does screening take place? In the United States, it's now recommended at 25 years old. In Scotland, 20 years old. In England, Wales, 25 years old. This is a test, a screening that costs, what, $20, $25 compared to the $400 for the vaccine. And if girls are sexually active at 9, 10, 11 years old, sexually abused, we have to throw that into the mix. And or if they are exposed to HPV through vertical methods, vertical transmission as we call it, then there's a huge risk of developing cervical cancer even before a first pap smear is taking place. HPV screenings do not take place prior to vaccination with either of the vaccines, and here's the problem. An infant can contract HPV at birth. A child can contract HPV by lateral transmission. Young girls and women are having intercourse at an earlier age, and the new PAP recommendations will push initial screenings back to age 25. The next section, Section 3, why is my daughter so sick now when she was always so healthy before the vaccination? This is a resounding concern expressed by all the parents that we have been in contact, and we've been in contact with hundreds over the years. The next series of slides addresses this concern. First of all, the placebo used in the Gardasil trials was not a true saline-only placebo. What is referenced as a placebo in these studies is actually the carrier solution of the vaccine. When analyzing the first table, it shows that 73.3% of participants that received Gardasil acquired a new medical condition. This was actually stated in the September 2008 closing documents, FDA closing documents on Gardasil. And that new medical condition is ranging from flu-like symptoms to paralysis. Now keep this in mind, people, it's really important. The concern is that approximately 3/4 of the female target population will suffer from some type of new medical condition as a result of these vaccines, increasing medical costs for families, including uninsured medical visits and diagnostic and lab testing. And I can't tell you how many parents and how many daughters have been told that this is all in their head because their family practitioners have not been able to figure out what's going on with these girls because of this new medical condition. This is a serious issue. In Table 32, in almost 60% of the participants, almost 60% of the participants experienced some type of systemic adverse reaction within 15 days. The concern is that some systemic adverse reactions can vary per individual and may not truly manifest until 30 days or more post-vaccination. The percentage in this table could have the potential to be much higher if the evaluation period is at least 1 month. Please note the HPV column, the HPV group here. Over 35% of the participants suffered from fatigue, over 31% suffered from headaches, and it is unknown whether some of them could have been of migraine intensity but did not stop normal activity, and 31% suffered from myalgia. The concern is that these are termed solicited, meaning that approximately 1/3 of the participants were expected to suffer from these adverse events. The breakdown, the total HPV group had 18,544 doses and 3 doses administered to an individual, and there were 6,119 participants. 2,020 participants, or approximately 1/3 of the participants, suffered from these expected conditions in the study group. The other general category includes 16,964 doses administered to 5,598 participants. 1,847 participants, or approximately one-third, had a reaction. 31% suffered from myalgia as a solicited symptom. In this table, the Gardasil numbers reflect day 1 to 15 for the reporting time period. Cervarix numbers only represent day 1 to 7 for the reporting time period. No numbers were available for day 1 to 15. If the reporting was for an extended period of time similar to Gardasil, probability dictates these percentages may be much higher. And we've gone through these already. For the most part, Cervarix elicits a much higher percentage of adverse events in the initial days after inoculation over Gardasil. The comparison suggests that Cervarix is much less safe or much more dangerous than Gardasil. High percentages of fatigue, let's go back, high percentages of fatigue, whoops, headache and myalgia may also be initially construed as the flu. This is really important, and not Cervarix related, and therefore would not be reported as an adverse event related to the vaccination until the symptoms persist past the 1 week time frame for the flu. And that's something that Cynthia Janet came up, and I find that truly fascinating. Population numbers from the 2007-2008 census were taken along with the percentages from the CDC document to ascertain the approximate number of adolescents vaccinated. The chart indicates that 6,533,460 received at least one dose of Gardasil HPV-4, 17.9%, or 1,877,190 received all 3 doses. Let's do the math here, people. Subtract that from the total that received at least one dose, and the balance indicates that 4,656,270 girls never completed the series. The average difference in the total number indicates that 71.3% did not finish the series. This percentage is in direct contrast to the 73.3% that is listed in Table 79, New Medical Conditions, and after day 1 in the studies. Again, this was in the closing document. This came out September 2008, that 73.3% were expected to have new medical conditions according to the CDC report, and these population statistics which we came up with based on our research on the census is that it's pretty darn close at 71.3% not finishing in the series. And indeed, we have heard from plenty of mothers once our press release went out, once our data went out, once this information was released across the world, stating that they never finished the vaccine series for their girls because of these adverse reactions. Section 4, after reporting my daughter's reactions to VAERS, I became curious to see how many other girls are like my daughter. There are so many. I am now afraid my daughter will not get better. And Rosemary Mathis and Janny Stokvis, we have to thank them because they combed the VAERS reports and they've come up with these brilliant graphs. Again, you can find all of this information on the truthaboutgardasil.org site. And an analysis of the VAERS database from 6/1/2006 to October 26, 2009 compared 100% of all reports filed for all 80 vaccines, including unknown, with 100% of all identifiable HPV reports filed during the same time period, shows disturbing differences. Gardasil statistics and VAERS do not appear to be comparable to other vaccine adverse events. The first graph you can see is titled Life-Threatening Events. If the HPV reports are subtracted from all the vaccines, an annual trend indicates that there would be 27 reports for all vaccines, excluding HPV, compared to an annual trend of 90 reports of life-threatening events for HPV only. This suggests that there will be an approximate, are you ready people, 329% increase in life-threatening reports of adverse reactions solely to the HPV vaccines.